of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. WEFM is SVG.
.30 here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're locked on to WEFM 99.9, the clean fresh sound, and this is your It's Your Turn program. Remember, It's Your Turn is an interactive program, so the numbers to call are 457-9997 if you're calling from a local landline, 532-9997 if you're calling from a digital cell phone, and you can also call or send us a message on WhatsApp at 457-9997. The It's Your Turn program is being hosted by Mr. Cecil Ryan, Mr. Philbert John, and Mr. Gerard Providence. Good morning to you, Cecil.
Good morning to you, Karen, and thank you very much for the introduction. And of course, morning to my colleagues. I get back to them in a while, colleagues in studio, just to say that today is a very special day for us here at It's Your Turn. So being a special day for Vince's, of course, wherever you are, we greet you very warmly. And it's a special day for us here at It's Your Turn for two reasons. I'll come back to them in a while. Well, maybe I'll get to one right now. One is the fact that we have rejoining It's Your Turn, the man himself who carried the campaign for finance for the airport here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For 12 years, he was away as our Consul General in Toronto, Canada. So he's back. He's fulfilled his obligation insofar as that assignment is concerned, and he's back now. And we're very happy to introduce him to join our program. So let me get to that. So Fitz, it's good to have you back in studio, WFM studio, and back on It's Your Hand.
Good morning to listeners. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning, Cecil. Well, I felt as if I never left.
Well, actually, in a way.
Because every week you would know that I was a regular contributor to your program. And so I'm happy that I'm here in person, and I hope I could add some value to our discussions week on week. So thanks for welcoming me, and thanks for having me back on your team.
Mm-hmm. And I will get to the other special reason in a while, but let me just, as usual, turn over to my colleagues. Philbert?
Yes, Cecil, thank you very much. And good morning to all, wherever you are listening to WEFM. I want to join you in welcoming back Consul General Fitzhuggins. And we know the program will be enriched with his presence. I just want to comment on World Teachers Day, but when we go back to opening remarks.
And we have our other colleague here, but he's not in place yet. He's getting to be in place. So while he's coming, and then in fact he's almost in place. He's now in place. So I won't take up any more time yet. But
yes, Cecil, I know my place. It's good to be back. I look forward to very much to be part of this program today. It's a great day, and it's going to be a great program. And I would also like to say welcome, if I could, to Fitz. It's the first time I'm actually in the studio with you here at WFM, I believe. I wasn't around at this side of the microphone when you were here years ago, but it's certainly good to be able to interact with you in person. But we have had other associations beyond WFM in the past. We have lots of great things to talk about. It's going to be a full program, and I certainly look forward to engaging each and everyone in the studio, as well as the listeners and those who are willing to call into the program later.
Yeah, and this has been a very special week for Vincentians at home and abroad, and also for our fellow citizens in Barbados, Belize, and Dominica. And that is what makes this program so special, because we're going to get into that discussion this morning. We'll be looking as our discussion topic this morning, we'll be looking at deepening Caribbean unity, the move by Barbados, Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines to expression of where, in a real way, the meaning, the expanding meaning, for as far as you're concerned, of CARICOM. So that's the focus of our discussion this morning, and we're going to get into it. But I just want to, as usual, greet folks who are listening to us across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from Fancy on one side, northeast, to Chateau Belay, Chateau Fitius, in fact, on the other side, northwest. Greetings on all the communities and tongues in between. Greetings and welcome to our program this morning. And we jump all the way down to Campbell. Good morning to the folks down there in the Southern Grenadines. Union Island, Myro, Canawan, and those who are listening in Palm Island as well. We greet you very warmly and we welcome you to our program. And gentlemen, these days I have to expand the reach of our greetings in terms of our recent move towards unifying and expanding our nationality, actually. It's not quite nationality, but you know what I mean. So we want to greet those folks who are listening in Barbados, and we'll come back to Barbados in a while. If you're in St. Lucie, we greet you. St. Michael, good morning, welcome to the program. Spiceland, good morning to you, welcome to our program, and of all of Bridgetown and the other places in Barbados. I want to jump over also to Dominica. And, well, before I go to Dominica, we have Belize, really. I know some of my colleagues here have done many trips to Belize. I myself have done some. I want to greet those who are listening in Belize City. Belmopan, good morning to you. Dan Grieger, good morning and welcome to the program this morning. And we're happy to have you on board, of course. We've always had you on board. We've always reached out to you. And of course, we have a natural link in terms of our indigenous caravan people. So welcome to the program this morning. And we hope one or two you might be listening. If you're in overseas and you're hearing this program, hearing my voice, please reach out to your brethren and sisterin back home and let them know. And in fact, let them know what our discussion topics about this morning. So yes, so I just want to come back to Dominica and greet those who are listening in Grand Bay and in Goodwill and in Layou. There is a Layou in Dominica, so we greet you. Portsmouth, greetings to you. And Castle
Bruce?
Castle Bruce, yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to you. That's close to where the airport is. So we greet you very warmly. Kalibishi, greetings to you. And we welcome you to our program. And we're happy that if you can, you're able to join us this morning. So then it's over to you, Philbert. You are Joel. I don't know either of you wanted to raise some issues. Joel?
I agree.
Okay, we have a lot of important things to talk about, and as you know, during the first 20 minutes or so, we tend to talk about things, this and that, but nevertheless, it doesn't mean that they're trivial, but important, but we feel that we can dispense with them at the start of the program. And I firstly would just like to extend very special congratulations to those police officers who were promoted recently or confirmed in their positions where they've been acting. They got their appointments confirmed, and a very special congratulations to them. I believe there would be happy persons in the as a result of this news, but I also want to acknowledge the comment by the now confirmed Commissioner of Police, where he said that persons who were not promoted this time is not to feel despondent or to despair, but certainly recognize that your time should come, and to use it as an opportunity in which you can reflect on where you are and where you should be going in the organization. I would just like to, from a purely personal standpoint, extend this congratulatory message to Panel Brown, the head of traffic. Why Panel Brown? Well, first of all, he was in the studio here with us maybe a month or two ago.
Month and a half, yeah.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
But I also want Panel Campbell to partner
Brown.
Brown tomorrow. Maybe someone can just call and interrupt me. I just switch. And certainly not. Definitely, I don't think I'm in a position to communicate with the other person right. Right now. But I just want him to know that every time that I drive at night, I think of him. Why? Because I have personally issues with the bright lights, the white lights, and it's difficult for me at my stage and the condition of my eyes to drive in the roads as they are. And I think that as we raised that issue on this program some time ago, whether that we can do something about the lights, or at least even if we can address the vehicles that tint their windscreens. Because when they tint their windscreens, they have a problem with seeing. And so they just simply put their lights on bright, right? And as a result, and that just simply makes things a lot worse. And if we can at least address the situation with the tinting of the windscreens, that could help to some degree to arrest the problem. But our problem is, and it's difficult, it's going to be a challenge. Sometimes you can see not just me, other person, they slow down, they pull aside, and so forth, because they cannot deal with the fact that there's a virtually an oncoming high beam in their face. Our roads are narrow. It's not the same like Trinidad or elsewhere, where the lanes are wide enough that you can actually drive in city oncoming traffic without fearing about there's an obstruction of light and so forth. So that is that. And then, of course, on the highways in some places, then you'll have the streets will be fairly well lit and so forth, but not so the case necessarily in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then, every 150 yards, so there's a corner that you have to turn and so on. And sometimes navigating these corners is not the best. And I really would love to see us address this problem. I know it's difficult to deal with the question of just changing the white lights back to amber or whatever it could be. But at the very least, if we can begin with removing the tint from the windscreen, that was something that will be certainly appreciated by people like myself. I'm not sure about the younger folks and so on, but for me, either that I know that some person may respond and say, well, don't drive at night. But I think it's a common expression I've heard from persons who are retired, semi-retired, of senior status. And but I don't think that we should necessarily be handicapped or further handicapped unnecessarily. And I just want to put that out. But more importantly, however, is I just want to say again to Parnell Brown and all the Commissioner of Police and everyone else who would have either been confirmed or received promoted and acting, all the best to them as they deliver an important service to the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I believe you don't mind if I still call the Consul General?
Fitz is good,
Fitz, I do not. Oh, sorry. I think Pigeon had some.
Fitz good.
Yes.
Pigeon is organized. But I was listening to Joel and he talked about the that film, the tint that goes on the windshield.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember the film itself. It's a film that has glue on its base.
Mm-hmm.
When you tint a glass, you have to wet that glue part for it to stick to the windshield. That glue, when the light hits it, the light tends to shatter. It scatters. So it's the glue that causes that problem seeing through that windshield. And for the life of me, I don't know why. Okay, when a vehicle comes out of a factory, they come with a tinted sheet film, but it's not. It's tested in the manufacturer's plant for the light to come through properly. But when you put film, that tinted film on a glass, what it does is shatter the whole light that comes on the incident, the angle of incidence, stuff like that. And that is what creates a problem for people to see through the windshield. And Joel is right. I mean, the response to not seeing through when lights hit you in your face is to turn on your bright. As the Prime Minister usually says, there's two types of brightness. One that blinds and one that make you go ahead, move ahead. So you see that brightness coming, and your first reaction is to try to see if you could kill the one that's coming, but it's not. It doesn't work. So I agree with Joel. We could have those things removed. I have no problem at all.
Already, I remember hearing the Prime Minister saying that that's one of the things that they were going to deal with. But now that Superintendent Brown is in place, I mean, it's confirmed. He may want to take it up as a
Yeah. The good thing with Brown being in place and so on, he has to be the one who we will remember as the person who did it. Somebody has to do it, right?
Well, in fact, a lot of people
leave his legacy as the man who did it.
A lot of people are remembering and keeping in mind that he also did. He said something on this program, and he said it on other programs, that there are some people, business owners, who put up no parking, put up barriers for the public on the road of streets of Kingston, but really, as he said, they don't own the public road. It's not right.
And if there's an obstruction in here, we remove
it. I do it all the time. If I go and drive into Kingston, once it doesn't have to do anything with police notice, no parking. Once that is not there,
you move it.
I move it. And as Superintendent Brown said on this program, they don't own government road. So you know what I mean? I'm a taxpayer like anybody else.
I am still struggling, Joel and Cecil and Pijan, to find out why we can't have people who park in along the streets in Kingston. Why can't they pay now for that spot? Because you will pay to go into a car park and you will walk to your office, but you're in the car park. You will come to town and you will take up a spot on the side of the road. Why can't we just put some booths, maybe similar to lotto booths, where somebody can go within close proximity at these booths and create some employment there, buy a hourly rate, you take it to your car. You do it in the States, you do it in Canada,
all over the place. You do it.
You will walk to your car to put up to display a sticker that you're legally parked and you've paid. We don't have to wait on machines for people to go in and do all of that. You could create employment until we get to where we could afford to buy machines. But we should be charging for parking along the streets in Kingston.
Well, I think that is coming. In fact, Minister Brown just in Parliament noticed that there are 3 streets where there will be no parking when the new port gets going. But I see people start reacting. So maybe that's going to be the start, that people would have to pay for their parking on the streets of Kingston. And mainly, as you said, Fitz, it's really to facilitate shoppers. Parking is really to facilitate shoppers, parking in the streets of Kingston. That while you go on and you're going to Jack's or Vero, Singer, or wherever, you park for 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah.
But you can't expect to park for the entire day while you go on to your workplace and so on. That's unfair. And it's ridiculous. But we were going to come back sometime and we're going to discuss this in full. Perhaps would be a good time to invite Superintendent Brown, Panel Brown, back in studio.
So he's superintendent now?
Yes, he was ASP before, so he's now Superintendent Brown. So congratulations to you. Let me join Joel and Pijan in congratulating all of those persons who have been their status and have been elevated. Pijan?
Yes, Cecil, today is October 5th, 2025, and this date is used to commemorate World Teachers' Day. And I just want to use the opportunity to extend best wishes to all educators in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The theme for this year is recasting teaching as a collaborative profession. It commemorates the day 1966, when the ILO, UNESCO adopted the document Conditions of Teachers. We haven't heard about the teachers union in a while, which is a good sign.
Haven't heard about them or from them?
From them,
Well-
in any public way.
Well, I heard from them just last week. They were their usual program on NBC Radio.
I wasn't talking about that in
I see.
generally, but
You know?
when they're making news,
Okay.
we haven't heard of that, and that's a good sign. It seems that all seem to be okay with the union, and I hope it continues to be so. And let me just say, as a past educator, best wishes to all teachers, particularly the young ones. There was an event, I think it was Thursday, where teachers were given, young teachers, trainees, were given laptops to assist them in their work.
Okay.
And I wish, as Brewster said, now it's good to be young. It is better to be a teacher at this stage.
Okay.
And I wish them all the best. And I just hope that the quietude continues for the time being.
It's just, well, it'd be hard, I think, in this particular period.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree with you. I join you in wishing that.
I'm glad look at Pigeon's face.
No, Pigeon is usually
Very facetious.
no, Pigeon, as I like how Pigeon is usually frank in dealing with these matters, and sincere. So, we have to appreciate that. All right. So we're close to no, we have about 5 minutes. I just want to say in the 5 minutes, is a form of protest. I want to protest and say, I was listening to Parliament. I don't know if you guys were listening. And at the particular point when Minister Brown was asked, she was responding to a question from one of the parliamentarians. I think it was the Honorable Daniel Cummins from West Kingstown. He asked her to respond to the availability of washroom facilities in the new community across from, Romans. She responded, and to me, she responded in a way fitting as the minister of responsible for that area, saying that the matter is being considered and all the various agencies of government are contributing to the process of arriving at a decision. And she eventually said that based on the process that they're looking at 10 months or thereabout for the facilities to be provided. I thought that Minister Brown was following the procedure, but I heard the voice of Mr. Cummins subsequently on a different program. And he actually, in my view, in my judgment, proceeded to abuse Minister Brown. And what was bad about it, in my view, other callers to the program joined in, and the host found it convenient to facilitate the whole process. And I just want to condemn that approach to be abusive. Some of them were actually abusive of Minister Brown as a woman, particularly as a young woman, because some of them made some foolish comments, in my view. So I just want to urge Minister Brown to just ignore those kind of things and be focused. And I'm sure she will. She's the kind of person who is able to do that and who does it. And plus, they were actually attacking her area for professional training. She's a town planner. She has spent years studying that whole phenomenon at up to the master's level. And I know for a fact she has had exposure at Harvard, additional training and exposure. And in my view, she's a well-trained professional, own right. And for whoever talker bees or whoever want to come and abuse her on radio, and that was allowed. I was particularly upset about that. So I just wanted to say that, to ask Minister Brown just to ignore those and just continue doing her good work. So yes, gentlemen, that's my be for this morning. I hope Minister Brown is listening. Somebody might tell her what I said, and the others who were part of this abuse of Minister Brown. I hope you all perhaps are listening now. Somebody may pass the word. All right, so I've gotten that off my chest. Joel, I see you.
Yeah, I just wanted to. My thoughts would have drifted for a while. And did you say that the parliamentary representative for West Kingston,
the Honorable
was
Daniel
he
Cummins,
the one who was being abusive towards Minister Brown?
Well, he wasn't really abusive, but he kind of, well, first of all, in the parliament, during the parliament session, he laughed in a kind of way, he laughed in a kind of, and he talked about that when I heard him on the subsequent program. He talked about the fact that he laughed, and as if he was glowing in his laughter. That's the impression I got. And when in that exchange or in that thing while he was in the program, others who were listening others of his ilk, called in and made some derogatory remarks, in my view. And as I said, the host of the program did not discourage it. He certainly facilitated it, that exchange between him and the caller. And the representative was on radio at the same time, while all of that was happening. In fact, what he was saying further aggravated the situation. So, serious job.
Yeah, well, I just I know we had a discussion last week or 2 weeks ago about the concept of the term silly season.
Yes.
And our views diverge somewhat.
Yes.
But I think maybe we can just simply use this opportunity and future opportunities to invite as many persons as possible when they're on radio, whether it's this station or the other stations in St. Vincent and Grenadine, just to be as mature as possible in their deliberations.
Yes, I agree. I certainly endorse that. And talking about mature, and this is another reason why we would urge persons who interact with this radio program and the radio station to be mature in their approach in dealing with matters, certain issues. Because I was saying earlier on that there were two reasons why today's program is special. I gave one, the return of Council General Fitzhuggins, and he's there. He's now rejoining us as a co-host. And the other reason is this one. They were very special to us because we were able to arrange for a very distinguished Caribbean broadcaster. He's not retired, I think, but and popular host of the program, Brass Tacks. And he's from Barbados, now we're operating in common space, actually, in the sense of Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, now a common space for our citizens.
As of October 1st.
As of October 1st, last Monday. So let me give you, Joel, are you going to say the rest and bring in our special guest to the program this morning?
Well, you said a good bit, and as we invite him to the program, I just want to say that firstly that I spent a number of my student years in Barbados. I lived in Barbados for a few years, and then I've also been to Barbados at least 100 times doing business and doing other things, for business and for pleasure. And on many an occasion, I've had cause to tune in to VOB radio to listen to our guest in this program today. When he and his colleagues, his guests, would have had to discuss the issues of the day concerning Barbados or the region or the world. And certainly it's a pleasure to have with us, as you said, in this common space, Mr. David Ellis. And I do believe that many Vincentians would also know the name David Ellis. So, David, without further ado, I would like to invite you to our program, Issue at Hand. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Jewel.
If you're hearing us, we're not hearing you. I hope your mic is on mute.
It is unmuted. Just let me see.
All right, we're going to be getting some assistance from our able technician here. So
Thank you.
we would.
Are you all hearing me yet? I'm
We
speaking.
also
Can you
have
hear me?
another guest for the program. We'd introduce
Good
our
morning.
guest who was become an associate of Issue at Hand in a way, right, Pijan?
You could say that.
Good morning.
He knows, and he has acknowledged that he is an associate of Issue at Hand. So we're gonna bring him in a while, but we're trying to get the voice of
Trying
Mr.
to
Ellis
figure out what's going on here.
sorted out so we can hear his voice and bring him in. Not yet.
Morning. Are
While
you
we're
hearing me?
walking and bringing
Any
in
better?
Mr. Ellis and to hear his voice, I think is about. We can go ahead as well and
Good morning.
announce our
I'm-
other guest who's on the program.
Good morning.
Well, I'm not sure if it'd be the best thing to do.
Testing
but,
1, 2, 3. Everything is functioning well from my end.
we'll wait until we sort out this little jinx.
Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2,
Trying to
3.
get in the voice of Mr. Ellis. We're doing that, gentlemen. Yeah, I don't know if any of you is brave enough
Are you hearing me?
attend the
Testing 1, 2.
festival activity last night.
Cannabis?
Yeah. Oh, you sound as if you were there. That's all.
No, I wasn't there, but I really wanted to go and hear Beanie Man, and especially Beanie Man, and I didn't make it.
Ah.
But I believe that I knew that Pijan was going to represent me.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't make
Pijan,
it.
full representation, eh? You represented me too.
I couldn't make that one.
I didn't make it
Test
either.
one, two,
I was on the other side of the country.
Thumbs down to you guys,
I was on the
man.
northern side of the country last
northeast?
night at a glow walk.
Oh, you were on the northeast.
Yes, I was
Let us all admit that we are all south of the specific demographic that would normally turn up.
Joel, are you hearing
well,
me?
well, no,
the Beanie Man
because
the Beanie Man is not so far.
Fitz just said that he was northeast, and I mean, northeast is a bigger, a harder trail.
I speak figuratively.
No, I know, but I mean, to be able to go up to northeast is a bigger task than going to
Victor Park.
yeah. So he has it. I mean, his status defy your categorize. I was going to say condemnation, but it's not really condemnation. It's yeah. So how was it? Oh no, we are saying that we were not there, but we would get back sometime in.
How was you asking me? How was
No,
the,
not your walk.
not
We'll
my
get back
walk.
to that later on, I believe.
Okay.
Later on, you can tell us about your walk.
Yes,
But,
I went walking.
You went walking, all right, and you went glowing as well.
I was glowing.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yes. But let's tell our listeners that Karen is trying to straighten out the voice challenge that we have right now. And Mr. Ellis, if you're listening, we can see you, but have some patience with us.
Okay, fair
We'll
enough.
try and sort this one out.
Are you hearing me now?
I'm sure we're going to do that tomorrow. By the way, I just saw a call coming on my phone. Dr. Steve Scott. I just wanted to also say that he's hearing. Please
I
say
can hear you.
that Dr. Scott is
hearing
hearing.
you well.
Just sent a message to say that, but I wanted to
He's
say
hearing who?
us.
I'm hearing
He's
you all,
hearing
but
us.
you're not hearing me.
Oh, he might be hearing
Yeah,
Mr. Ellis as well.
He's probably saying
Hi,
he's hearing
are
Ellis, like Mr.
you
Ellis.
all hearing me?
Oh yes, he's saying we are hearing him. That's what he's saying.
Oh, so we're the ones not hearing.
Oh, okay. So
I'm
Mr.
hearing
Ellis,
you all quite
you
well.
don't mind if I call you David? Can you speak and let's hear what?
Yes, I am speaking at this point.
I'm
hearing you
still not
all
hearing.
well.
Is the mic on? Is the mic on?
My
mute?
mic is on.
I
mic
think
is on.
the challenge is from your end,
No, it
David.
isn't. But not from my end. I can see my.
Perhaps he might go out and come back in. It might be a way.
Perhaps I'll come out and come
Yeah,
back.
I think the challenge that we're having now is on your end, David. So perhaps if you go out and come back in, it might help.
All right, I'll
Not
do
sure. No, but Cleve said he's hearing him.
But apparently he heard us.
Yeah. Oh, he went out. Yeah. All right. So we're getting sorted out. So hopefully we'll be in a position to deal with it soon. But I think none of us is hearing in studio. None of us is hearing Mr. Ellis's voice. So we're going to sort it out. We're going to do that. Yes.
Maybe we can bring in the other guest.
Yes.
And see if
oh, you're right. All right. So let's introduce. Is he in? I think he's there. Professor.
Just hold on. Test. Are you hearing me now?
Yes. Fitz, I think you've hit the nail. Let's bring in our other guest. Oh, he's not there yet. He's not there yet. But the problem seems to be on our side.
I don't know what the problem is. I'm seeing that my microphone is registering. It is
Okay.
open. So something is going on with the technology that we are using, or this software.
In the meantime, I think we should invite Dr. Robinson to call.
But he's not there yet. That's why we just checked.
He's not there. He's probably waiting on our
Robinson.
He's waiting on our invitation.
No, he's supposed to show up
at a particular time.
Yeah,
okay.
and
they're saying to me that you are in the show.
And then
everyone can see. Everyone can see and hear you.
So we presume he's not.
I don't understand that
in the space as yet. Yeah. But I going back to the show while we're waiting. Going back to last night's show. First of all, I want to commend the organizers. It seemed to have been well attended, and I heard the voice of a young 1, 2, 3. Lady.
1, 2, 3 test.
I don't know if you guys have seen or heard her. I don't remember her name.
Was she that same young lady who went to Carifesta?
Could have been the same one. Yeah,
she has a beautiful voice.
She sang that song that
testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 test.
Roberta Flack song. You know that one?
Which one?
Telling my whole life or something like that. You know that one?
Killing Me Softly.
It's Killing Me Softly.
Killing Me Softly.
Yeah. In the same way that what's her name? She sang and she was good.
She sounded like Roberta.
Not Roberta Flack, who sang it in the style. She was part of
testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
I can't remember her name. The name of the group. There's Black Eyed Peas. You remember that group, Black Eyed Peas?
Yeah.
The what's her name? Who's the lead female singer in that group? Was it Black Eyed Peas? Yeah, man. And the gentleman is from Haiti. The Fugees, yes.
You're talking about Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill. Yeah. Thank you very much. You guys are in this thing. But Lauryn Hill sang that tune in the same way. Or the young lady last night sang that tune in the same way that Lauryn Hill sang it some time ago. And she's good. She's really, really good. I listened. So
we're making progress there, Kira.
Let's see if we can, or maybe you can play the.
Oh yes, in fact, that's a fantastic suggestion, which I didn't think about before. We're going to play while we're waiting.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
To get this thing sorted out, we're going to play the address by Mia Motley. That's one of the things we have lined up for this morning, and it has to do with the same issue. So let's go on to it.
Test 1,
lives
2, 3,
across
1, 2,
the Caribbean region and strengthen our nation
Test.
at home. I know some of you feel excited. I also know that some of you feel anxious. You have questions. You want to know exactly what will happen and how it will affect your family, your job, your children's future. All of your questions and feelings are valid. Tonight, I would like to speak plainly and respectfully about what begins tomorrow, the 1st of October 2025. Barbadians have been blessed. We have had successive governments work fervently to build a regional integration project. Sir Grantley Adams
Testing,
built out the
1,
West
2,
Indies
1, 2.
Federation. The most excellent Errol Barrow was a founder of the Carifta movement and CARICOM. Sir Lloyd Erskine Sandiford was the signatory to the Grand Lance Declaration in 1989 that led to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, which is what established the CARICOM single market and economy. The Honorable Owen Arthur guided the single market into life and led our entry into the Caribbean Court of Justice, both as an appellate court and as a court of original jurisdiction. They all knew, my friends, and governed accordingly, that a small country like Barbados needed the regional integration project in order to do better for our people. Of course, they also helped build the other two regional institutions of which we have been proud, the University of the West
Look,
Indies,
something
and
is wrong
yes,
from,
the West Indies
between
cricket
us because
team,
my
who we love
microphone
and
is
who
on,
regrettably
registering and
sometimes
everything. I can
traumatize us
hear
so
you,
much, but we
but
still
you
love them.
cannot hear me when I speak.
But tonight, I'd like to set out what happens at our borders. I'd like to explain how we will prioritize the safety of Barbados and Bajans. I want to show towards public services
All right,
and
thanks.
supports
I'm on
our future.
standby.
I will also remind us that the ties among our islands are not new, not strange, and definitely not to be feared. They are part of who we are. From tomorrow, nationals of 4 countries, Barbados, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Belize, will be able to move among these states with the right to live, to work without a work permit, and to study on an indefinite basis. We call ourselves pioneers because we are putting in place a regime which I have every confidence that others in our Caribbean community will join in due course. Some of you say to me, Prime Minister, we already allow 6 months. Yes, we have. For many years, CARICOM nationals have been granted stay for up to 6 months on arrival, subject to established exceptions in our law. It has worked. But the promise we made to ourselves in the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas was always about more than a visit. It was about allowing our people to move freely, without hassle, across our family of nations. The heads of government asked who was ready to begin. And Barbados, yes, raised their hand. My friends, we are ready. And as a nation, Barbados, we need it. Let me make it simple. Those who are nationals of any of the other pioneering countries will present their passport when they arrive in Barbados. I refer, as I said, to Belize, Dominica, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. The immigration will record their entitlement to indefinite stay in our electronic system. The information is then shared securely with the national agencies that need to know so that our visitors can move forward in an orderly way. If they intend to reside and work here, the next steps are clear. They are guided to register with the Ministry of Labour, with the National Insurance Scheme, and with the Barbados Revenue Authority if they intend to work, as is the case with all Bajans. Once we are working, we work and register at the National Insurance Scheme, and we work and register at the Barbados Revenue Authority. Even if you pay no taxes, you register and file. They will also be directed with respect to national registration and obtaining national identification, which is necessary in any event to register at the National Insurance Scheme and at the Barbados Revenue Authority. So they will be able to function as residents do, working lawfully, opening up a bank account, paying statutory contributions, contributing to the Resilience and Regeneration Fund, and doing the ordinary things of daily life with clarity. In other words, positively contributing to the social and economic fabric of our land, Barbados. Children who need school places will be registered through the Ministry of Educational Transformation in the same way that ordinary Barbadian citizens are registered to be able to enter school. Access to emergency and primary health care will will be on the same terms as citizens. We will do this with order, with respect, and with the commitment to fairness that we expect for Barbadians in Dominica, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and in Belize. This is who we are, and this is who we have been for decades when we have allowed so many who moved here from St. Lucia and St. Vincent in the 1970s to help with the sugar industry. When we saw Guyanese move here, we have always been able to integrate them into our society. Friends, if you choose to exercise your own right to full freedom of movement in Dominica, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or in Belize, you will enjoy the same right to live, to work without a permit, and to study on an indefinite basis. This is not a one-way arrangement. This is a regional road, and it runs both ways. We are proud to be one of the 4 pioneering countries in this journey, and know that future generations will be inspired by our tenacity and our commitment to progress. This was, my friends, the vision of the founders of CARICOM, of whom our own Errol Barrow, as I said, was one. Now, some of you have asked, will we be safe? My answer is yes, because the law and the systems are clear. First, the law of our community, as dictated by the Caribbean Court of Justice, has long set out a number of clear principles. Any government may refuse entry to a person who poses a genuine threat to national security or is likely to become a burden on the public purse. Equally, any government may refuse entry to a person on the basis of public health concerns, as we learned recently, all of us, in the COVID-19 pandemic. These principles remain in place. They are the guardrails of responsible regional integration. And believe me, when I tell you that they will be applied should the need arise. Secondly, we operate within a regional security architecture that works every day and works professionally, and has done so since 2007 for almost 2 decades. Passenger information is screened in advance of arrival. Our immigration, border control, and law enforcement agencies work with their regional counterparts through the Joint Regional Communications Center and through the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security. I know this because I worked with Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic in 2006 and 2007 to set up these agencies, the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security and the Joint Regional Communications Center, for a time and for a purpose such as this. The Caribbean, my friends, became the first region to vet the names of all passengers against Interpol's databases in 2007. Switzerland was the first country, the Caribbean the first region. We also vet against the United States databases at Homeland Security and indeed the CARICOM regional watch lists as a means of double and triple check-in. Barbadians, we are not closing our eyes and swiping. We have taken solid guard, and we're playing each ball on merit with our baton pad close together and our borders and responsibilities intact. While Cabinet has approved the policy framework, we expect the bill to be laid at the next sitting of Parliament, which is next Tuesday, October 7th, for debate soon thereafterwards. In the circumstances, there is no prejudice to anyone wishing to come, given the fact that they are already entitled to 6 months under the current arrangements and will not be prejudiced in any way pending the legislation's passage through Parliament over the next few weeks. We welcome, yes, our Caribbean family. We do not welcome criminality. We welcome contribution. We do not welcome abuse of our systems. That is the balance, and that is the commitment I make to you. I will say this as plainly as I can. An economy is not a pot of food that if you give someone else a plate, that does not mean that somebody else will go hungry. It doesn't work that way. Those who push that narrative are alarmists. The fastest developing countries grow when people bring talent and energy and enterprise. And those that fall equally are those that turn inwards and refuse to recognize the need for skills to come in to help build out their country. We don't only need investment and money for our country's growth and development. We need people and skills. People who come to live and work here will fill that gap that exists, not force Bajans out of a job. They will help our businesses to serve more customers, create competition that benefits the consumer. They will rent homes or buy homes. They will buy from our shops. They will support local businesses. They will hire our tradesmen. They will go to our places of entertainment. This additional economic activity will benefit Bajans across the board, as we have seen in the past. This step also supports our public finances. Those who work will pay income tax. I spoke about them registering with the Barbados Revenue Authority. Those who are employed will contribute to the National Insurance Scheme and the Resilience and Regeneration Fund. And at the risk of sounding like a stuck record, I'll say it again. Barbados, my friends, is aging. The number of people in their working years is declining. The number of seniors is rising. The number of persons being born has declined. It is expected that 1 in every 2 Bajans will be over the age of 65 years old in less than 25 years. I ask you to think about what you were doing in the year 2000 when the century changed, for you to understand how close a horizon this is for us. Because this is our reality. Yes, we all want our people to live longer, but it also places pressure on pensions and health costs on our workforce. And therefore, we must maintain a strong base of contributors to the Social Security scheme, to the building out of this country, to keep our promises to our elders, and indeed for our children to have a place that they can live in and hope to grow old in. Free movement among these 4 countries is therefore not the only answer, but it does go hand in hand with the other work that we are already doing to support our population strategy. Only days ago, we launched the Intersectoral Implementation Group for the Barbados Population Policy. We know that our population has declined and has aged, and that group therefore exists to drive the delivery of the policy that we have adopted. Free movement complements that work by attracting additional working age contributors from people who speak the same language, have a common history, and for the most part are already familiar with our culture. And it also gives Barbadians greater options across the region. For those who ask, what about Bajans? Here's what I'll tell you. This is also about you. Barbadians now have an indefinite right to live, to work, and study in Dominica, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and in Belize. These are real opportunities for our teachers, our nurses, our technicians, our creatives, our entrepreneurs, and our young graduates. This region is your marketplace. This region is your stage. This region is your home.
All right, so we're going to put a pause on the speech by Prime Minister Motley for a little while, and if we need to, we'll get back to it. But in the meantime, we have some good news. We have solved our in-studio little challenge here, so we are hearing very clearly now Mr. Ellis. So we want to get back to that point where we were introducing Mr. Ellis, and first of all, we want to apologize to him for this technical hiccup. Also to apologize to our followers, those who are listening and those who are hearing actually him, and it's only that we were not hearing him here in studio. Our bad, and we apologize for that. We are now pleased to have the voice of Mr. Ellis. So Mr. Ellis, good morning, and sorry about that, but we are happy to have you on the program and to hear your voice this morning.
Well, a very good morning to you and to your listeners as well. I have Philbert, John, Cecil, Ryan,
Yes.
Fitzhuggins, and Joel Providence.
Correct.
And let me say at the outset that there's mixed reaction in Barbados to this whole concept of freeing up the movement of people among the 4 countries. There are many people who have bought into the concept of the freedom of movement. There are some older Barbadians who can remember when the federal palm and the federal maple were traveling up the region, moving people and moving goods. And that was in the colonial period. Independence, as you well know, has had the impact of at times pushing us further apart as we were keen to raise our individual flags and push the concept of pride and industry at a national level. We've now sought to address that by pushing the concept of unity. You who are within the OECS have had this process in train for some time now. What we don't know, what we don't get, is any assessment of how it has worked for you all so far. In Barbados, therefore, there are those who say yes, a resounding yes to the idea. But of course, there are others who have different views on the matter. I'll give you an example. There's an organization here called the Barbados Consumer Empowerment Network. It is supposed to be a consumer group. And it talks about the pressures that Barbadians are under. It says the cost of living is sky high, wages are stagnant, and public services are stretched to the limit. It goes on to say that every trip to the supermarket reminds consumers living in Barbados of how hard it is to make ends meet. Rent and housing costs are pushing ordinary families to the brink. Utility bills climb steadily, while water outages and electricity costs continue to frustrate householders. Opening borders, it says, without fixing these issues is like pouring water into a leaking bucket, and it is likely to make the problem worse, not better. So that's a taste of what is being said at that end. Then today, when you look at the newspapers today, the opposition leader is saying that the Prime Minister has overstepped her authority. And he says that the Prime Minister didn't have the power to unilaterally declare the Free Movement Initiative until the requisite legislation is passed through Parliament for debate. And he said that those pieces of legislation are the Immigration Bill and the new Citizenship Bill. In addition to that, we have the Bar Association of the country also speaking out on this issue, requesting that the government deals with certain of the legislative requirements before we can go in the direction of saying that we have this free movement. Of course, you've heard the Prime Minister say that people who are coming here at this time under the concept would still have that 6-month window. So it comes across as though, even though the legislation has not been passed, we have already moved in the direction, recognizing that that legislation is coming. So that's a taste of the cut and thrust of the debate that is taking place in Barbados at the moment.
Interesting. Joel, you want to respond insofar as SVG is concerned?
Yeah, well, it's not surprising to hear some of the comments, and I listened to Dr. Brastacks a few days ago, and I heard some of the comments as well. There's some degree of anxiety, as well as some persons who had a wait and see approach to it. We, as you asked a question earlier on as to how it has been working for us in the OECS, and I would say without hesitation that is working fine. We don't have any taxes figuratively on the public purse in St. Vincent and Grenadines as a result of St. Lucians or Grenadians or Dominicans coming to St. Vincent and Grenadines. We don't have any problem, and I am sure that the same thing would be said by the average St. Lucian or the average Kittitian and so on. So I think that it is working fine. And then, of course, naturally, you have to still go beyond just the free movement of people. So what exactly is the objective? What we're trying to achieve by allowing persons to move across borders on the basis of an ID card with an indefinite stay stamp being put in their passports. And so we can talk about that a little bit later. But I just want to add about the legislative arm that here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have already passed the appropriate bills. One, I think, is the amendment to immigration restriction. That has been addressed, and coupled with that was also something which is to the contingent rights for those persons who with skill certificate regionally and so forth, and that. But it wasn't yet addressed in the past in terms of, okay, what are the other rights other than being able to work in another jurisdiction within CARICOM. So those have been addressed already. And the good thing about it here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is that both the government and the opposition endorsed the bill. They had voted the opposition. There's no rancor, and I think it was just more or less unanimous and so on. And then you don't get the feeling as you listen to the talk shows in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that there are any significant issue with regarding this question of full free movement of people between St. Vincent and Barbados, Dominica, and Belize.
Well, I take into consideration your assessment of success, but there are a lot of people who like to get some additional evidence of success, and that requires some studies and stuff. We have the University of the West Indies and other organizations, because I was looking, for instance, at the situation in Britain and with Brexit, and there was some assessment that by Britain coming out of the Brexit, coming out of the European Union in the way that it has, that it would have an impact on exports and imports. So they did some analysis. It's not conclusive because you got some differences of opinion depending upon how the study has been done. But for us in the region, I think we all have the same types of issues. I don't believe that you all don't have a population problem. The same thing that we are complaining about, you also face that. When you're going into construction, if you have a boom, you have a shortage of labor. The issues that we talk about with respect to services, all of that, we all face the same problems. So I think it is important that once you have embarked upon something of this nature, that there are periodic assessments with facts and figures to help give us a sense of the movement, and everything that we do has pros and cons. So should we not be in a position to assess those pros and cons rather than just glibly say, well, nobody complains, and because nobody complains, it means that all is well? I don't think that everybody accepts that approach.
But go ahead.
I would want to respond, but Fitz.
No, go ahead, Joel. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with you in the view that you need the information has to be flowing to know exactly what the numbers are saying, and so on. But it's too early at this particular stage to say with relation to what's happening with the full free movement of these 4 member states. But with regard to information for the OECS, there's information that's available. We don't have it to present to you today, and we live it, we feel it, and we hear it, we discuss it, and it has, I can say without equivocation, that has been working quite well. We have some information in relation to Barbadians, for example, who have applied for work permits and residency in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have information of that today. In the last couple of years, we've had maybe 2,000 Barbadians or so. There were about 35 or so persons with residency and have cause to be working in St. Vincent for one reason or another, with extended stay. But we wouldn't know as yet, because this is a different dimension, and we wouldn't know as yet how it will pan out. I think. Go Go ahead.
I wasn't asking for that. I wasn't asking for the information in relation to Barbados. My concern would have been about how it has worked within the OECS so far, since you all have embarked on this particular process for quite a period right now. That's the only point that I was making in relation to being able to get more information, because I think it's important for us to have a sense of, how are we progressing in that regard. But that was the only point on it.
Yes, but as I mentioned, we don't have sufficient data to present to you regarding the OECS today, and it's something that I believe that we can obtain and share. But anecdotally, and more than anecdotally, is that we are quite satisfied that the purpose behind the free movement of people within the OECS, we're quite satisfied that it is working.
Hi, David. This is Fitz.
Forgive me, but I'm still having technical problems, because when I speak, it is coming back at me as well. So forgive me if I'm not hearing you well enough. But you proceed.
Are you hearing me? Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. I want to pick up on the Consumer Association. Can't remember the exact name of the association. I think
yes.
they complain about going to the supermarket and things are getting more expensive every time they go, etc., etc. When you implement the free movement of people, if, for example, every Vincentian decides to go to Barbados, let us assume that takes place, you get a larger consumer base, wouldn't you? Hence, that should alleviate that problem that the Consumer Association have, because you will have a larger consumer base, hence prices could easily go down because there are more consumers. So I don't know if that complaint just for them to be on record as a complainant, right? Rather than having a study done to show that free movement of people would cause an increase in prices. I would think if everybody goes from all the islands and say, let's move to Barbados.
But only thing to face that if demand goes up, if demand goes up beyond supply, then price will go up.
Okay, good. That's a point. From that standpoint. But if you have a larger consumer base, chances are there'll be a higher chance of prices going down because you have more people buying, purchasing. You see my point?
Yeah, only from an economies of scale standpoint.
Yeah.
Except he was talking about the reaction from
exactly. I was responding to the reaction from the consumer.
He's only responding.
Yeah.
He was my understanding is that he was sharing with us the feedback that that have started to come in. So
yeah, because it's important for me to reflect to you what is happening here, and to a large extent, I try my best to stay within the center of this issue, recognizing that you're going to have arguments for and you're going to have arguments against. And what I've sought to do is to reflect to you that there are people who are excited by the idea, who believe that it will be good for companies, for instance. Some people express the view that, as you said, with a larger market, it will be better for some businesses in the country. There are those on the other side of the coin who talk about your infrastructure. For instance, one of our major areas of concern in Barbados right now is the accident and emergency department of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where on average, many people who are going there for treatment can find themselves in that accident and emergency department for something like 3 to 4 days. Part of the problem is that we do not have enough beds on the wards to accommodate the people who are going for treatment. There are those who will argue that this is one of the concerns that we must have as we look towards expanding that market that you're talking about, because it will, of necessity, put more pressure on certain of your services. being described these days as a water scarce country. We have not had a lot of rain this year in the hurricane season. It is obviously creating some measure of concern about what is going to happen next year when the drought season comes around. And there are already areas that the government has had to work very hard to try to get additional water to since 2017 or thereabout. But there's one area in the north, they're complaining bitterly. There seems to be no end to the problem that they are facing. So those are the types of issues. What's happening with traffic in Barbados? These are some of the things that come at me on a regular basis, sitting down as a moderator of one of the perhaps the most popular call-in program that we have in the country. Not perhaps, by the surveys, it is the most popular call-in program.
So, David, I have somebody a call online, and he would like to engage a bit. Let me pass the question through. Hi, Lansford, are you there? Good morning to you.
Hi, Cecil, morning.
Yes, so I've alerted Mr. Ellis that you're going to be engaging him. So he's hearing you. So
thanks, Cecil. It's rather early because I would have loved to hear much of Mr. Ellis's views before I engage him.
It's all right. We can go back and forth. It doesn't really matter. We are cool with that.
Yes, thanks, Cecil. Thanks for allowing me. Mr. Ellis, good morning.
Good morning, sir. A pleasure to hear you.
Thanks. My interest is in the study that you're mentioning, that whether or not the OECS had the data to indicate how well the free movement among OECS countries are doing.
Yes.
And I'm just interested in what are the areas you would have loved to see reported, and what are the factors you would have loved to see measured?
For sure, labor movement is something that would be of interest to us, because you certainly would want to see the skills that are moving one way or the next. You also want to assess what would be your remaining deficiencies in those areas. That's one. Is that valid?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it is valid, but in terms of a consumer movement raising it, I am just curious, how is that going to affect consumption?
But I can't speak on behalf of the consumer movement. I can only say to you that this is one of the things that they have raised. I'm the one who have raised the question of the need for more information about how it has worked for the OECS in the years that you have had it. And from what I have seen, I can go nowhere and pull up information that says, look, this is the analysis that we have had of it. What we do know, I mean, I've worked in Montserrat and I'm pretty familiar with, a lot of what happens in the region. What I do know is that there has long been a way of living among people in the OECS where you do not really have these tensions about where Dominicans go and reside, or where Grenadians reside, or where Vincentians reside. And I must tell you also that here in Barbados, there is a sizable Vincentian community. I'm one of the people who like once in a while to go and buy food from a lady who does ground provisions with salt fish and red herring, and then she pours on top of it pickled cucumber and that sort of thing. I have never had it from anybody else, So we are able to mingle and do well together. But all I'm saying to you, sir, is I think that in all of this, though, looking at the past and going forward, statistics and information will be crucial in trying to determine to what extent are we successful in trying to achieve the objectives that we set.
Yes, I hear you continuously asking the question about information that would measure the success. And in as much as you speak about the skills that are exchanged and so forth, I am really not with you on that one. You see, I would be biased to my response because we have lived for many years. Those of us who traveled through Barbados, we're just passing through. And the treatment we have always got from officials in Barbados, not the Bajan people, because you go among Bajan people generally and you're welcome. But when you take into consideration immigration and customs and so forth, the treatment that we have always had from them, I suspect this is what you're reporting that is reflected in the Bajan society at this point in time. I agree with Mr. Hoggins that an expansion in the market will settle when it becomes at the equilibrium point. Barbados and Caribbean people would be better. And it would be better for Barbados because Barbados is one of the economies that produce a lot of the things that they consume, a lot of the meat. And now more so I listen to read in Barbados, they're producing a lot of the agricultural products and so forth. And as you expand the demand, supply will increase almost automatically. We have to take into consideration that the general assumption when we are making these analysis, this man is rational. And once you have that increase in demand, supply will increase. And more often than that, the equilibrium would be be beneficial. At the equilibrium point, it will be beneficial to those of us in the region. As I said, this is an early time to be engaging you, but I am listening with great interest because
Lansford, don't go off. I want to pose a question to all of us. Isn't it, based on what David has already shared in terms of the concerns expressed by the consumer group, isn't that to be expected?
That's the point I was making, Cecil.
Right, and therefore,
based on my experience, and I believe, well, let me don't speak for the rest of the guys because they can speak too. But generally, that is what is expressed in our society generally. Those of you who are fortunate, or we can say unfortunate to have passed through Barbados, and that's why the intentions who traveled welcome the Argyle International Airport so fondly.
Because in her address, Prime Minister Motley already raised those as areas that may surface and may become that we have to deal with. So I think it's one of the challenges. I think it's one of the challenges going forward that all sides, all citizens have to deal with, and we have to find a way to deal with those challenges. So in as much as the consumer group and others, in fact, I actually noticed also the concern expressed by the Bar Association. But that's all right. I mean, we have to find a way to work through those things. That's one of the challenges of unification, given our history.
But you cannot be dismissive of people's concerns.
No.
I'm not saying you are.
Okay.
I'm saying that generally we cannot be dismissive because there are pressures that people are already experiencing within all of these societies. And we've been trying to work as much as we can to see how we can be unified in our responses. The point that has been made here about the Barbadian attitude and that sort of thing, which he says at the official level, well, I am telling you that as somebody on the ground in this country, the relationship between Barbadians and Vincentians is very close. I have worked with Voice of Barbados for several years, and one of the things that we have done in recent times would have been to hold some night cricket games, and the Vincentian community turned out in large numbers. There's not that tension between Barbadians and Vincentians that has been referred to at the official level, which, according to the caller, has resulted in the opening of Argyle International Airport. We work harmoniously together in this country. I don't know that you can ascribe to the general population what one or two or some people in a particular category may be accused of doing. So, and we are not hearing that kind of message coming from Vincentians who live here.
David, this is Fitz again.
Hi,
we,
Fitz.
we cannot, as a Vincentian, I cannot sit here and do not support Mr. Weeks when he talk about our lived experience when we go through Barbados and we using the airport, and what drove our government to open our own international airport. And one of the main reasons was that we suffer a lot of prejudice when we come through Barbados, not from the Bajan people, but from the officials working at the airport. So I support Mr. Weeks in that regard, and every Vincentian would hold.
Well, I'm not dismissing what he has said about the treatment at the airport.
But the point
I have focused on the relationship that we have on the ground here.
The point I want to get to, though, is the what we see now is an initial reaction. People will be asking questions. What would we do when this happens? What can we do to stop this from happening? So this is what we are seeing now. I believe we should be talking about how do we resolve these issues. Do we have more education out there?
Exactly.
We have more discussions, allow for more free speech, people expressing themselves, and let's come up with solutions. Because where we are now, I don't know if each government may have to come back to do a referendum.
No, absolutely.
No,
I don't think we need to get to that stage.
That is necessary.
That's not necessary. Once the laws are passed, I believe what we need to do is go out in the public.
It's a natural process.
To educate the people as to the benefits. And there will always be setbacks, but there must be more benefits than setbacks.
But let me
ask this question.
Let me come in and say this exchange that we're having now is a concrete example of what you're suggesting, Fitz. That we have to be mindful of the reaction of all the public.
Vincentians have the same complaints.
We have to be mindful. We have to be mindful of that. And that is why the challenge for all of us, the folks in Barbados, in Belize, in Dominicans, in Vincent and the Grenadines, we have to find a way, led by our leaders, to rationalize and move this thing forward. That's what it is. It's not an easy overnight thing. And we have to recognize that.
The truth is that sentimentality alone is not going to move us forward. Saying that it is a great thing to do and that we are kith and kin alone is not going to do it. As you all said, we have to identify what the concerns are and then work together. Now, I'm curious as to whether you believe that freeing up the movement of the people will eliminate the concern that both of you have raised here about the treatment at the airport. Do you anticipate that this will change that?
Let me,
gentlemen.
I think I need to come in because I am well placed, more than anyone else in this room right now in the discussion, because I have lived the bulk of my life in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I have lived in Barbados. When I first went to Barbados, I remember being called a foreigner. And I was very surprised. I mean, this is going back to the late 1970s. I was never called a foreigner before. But since then, I've been as I mentioned before, over 100 times. I worked in Barbados and I interact with a lot of Barbadian persons. And I've not had any problems in terms of the interaction with the ordinary persons working in the different places that I've been. I have also, when I was chairman of the Tourism Authority in St. Vincent, I made it my business to do surveys because I was trying to promote regional tourism visitor arrivals from the Barbados and Trinidad and so forth. And I did surveys in Barbados, and what I found was that Barbadians did not have St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a place that they would prioritize to visit. If any place nearby, they went to St. Lucia, and then they went to North America and to UK, but not to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Those who came this way are those who are more affluent, and they went down to the Grenadines on their yachts and so forth. What I'm just saying is that we have to be able to reach out, communicate, understand each other, and I believe that there is a bit of a wall there that can be dealt with. As David said, the Barbadians in the Vincentians in Barbados get along with the Bajans. I believe that there are few Bajans in St. Vincent, but I don't hear of any animosity at all in St. Vincent, and I believe that is a problem that can be addressed. But there's some other bread and butter issues that are real, and these are things that we must we got to tackle. David mentioned, for example, the issue about the water services and the cost of living issues. You talk about even labor shortage. Well, this will help to address this question of labor shortage, whether it's in construction or elsewhere.
You think so?
But let's not get on to
Because-
those issues yet, because we have to get past the point which where we're trying to resolve now. And I hear Lance for trying to come in.
Cecil, if I am permitted, I want to go off and listen off here, but if I'm permitted to just make one or two final statements. One, I want to say that addressed by Ms. Mockley, Prime Minister of Barbados, was an excellent one. And given the ease of communication in the present time, that probably should have been an address,
A regional kind of address.
A regional address. And I think those who are responsible for broadcasting and news, it is something that in its entirety that should be reproduced as often as humanly possible. I think it's an excellent address. I think it answered a number of the questions that we are discussing here and that are in the minds of Caribbean people. Even though she had to do is to speak in summary form, but I think it's really good. And finally, before I go off, I want to say a lot of the questions, a lot of the issues, the attitudes that we suffer among Caribbean people, because like Joel, I lived in Barbados, not for as long as him, but maybe equally to the time he spent in Barbados, I spent that time in Jamaica. And I have concluded, and I am very confident that a lot of the issues we face and a lot of things we are discussing here are because of the lack of knowledge, of information among the average Caribbean people. I think Joel is quite correct. The average Barbadians will look across to St. Lucia for obvious reasons. St. Lucia start the economic development long before us for different reasons. So St. Lucia must have been more appealing to the Bajans to travel to. Likewise, they look up north. It's the same thing in Jamaica. I think that Jamaica is one of the countries that would have, in the region, that would have benefited more than any if they were able to join the freedom of movement. But the government in Jamaica is quite unlikely and would be quite reluctant to make that decision because of the lack of information in the society. Jamaicans travel up north and they look up north and they know very little. They may know a few things about Barbados and Trinidad. Outside of that, they don't know anything about the rest of the Caribbean. So I think the information that you guys are calling for would help in reducing the kind of misgivings that we have with respect to the freedom of movement. But I think this is an enlarging of the economy in the Caribbean, and it is my view, based on the limited knowledge that I have, it would be a tremendous benefit for all of us. There are some examples that we can already cite in terms of one or two Vincentians, maybe more than come to mind immediately, that Barbados have benefited from tremendously.
Well,
who have left our shores and are working in Barbados and causing development not just in Barbados but across the region.
But Lansford, it's funny you've made that last point, and you're willing to stay on if you wish to. But I'm saying so because at this point, I have to move now to introduce to our discussion here this morning, Professor Justin Robinson. He just showed up. So I want to introduce Professor Robinson right now, and he's a typical example, prime example of the statement he just made, Lansford. So let me now introduce Professor Justin Robinson. Professor Justin Robinson, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Right. And have you been following any?
You know, I just got to log on. I see my partner in crime, David Ellis.
Yes, he's on. He's on, and he's hearing you. And we have back in studio with us we have Fitzgerald Huggins. He has just joined our team this morning, so he's here as well. In addition to Pigeon and the regular you know what I mean, Pigeon and Joel.
Yes, one.
So good. It's give us your take, basically.
So thanks for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be back on and to see my good friend David Ellis. I think I once heard David say that we must be friends because he's taken lashes on my behalf on various issues. And I want to start maybe with two aspects of the conversation. I heard the tail end of the last comment stressing the economic benefits. And I'm always a little wary of selling regional integration and movement on the economic benefits. I sort of go back to the Barbados national hero Errol Barrow saying this is the lived experience of Caribbean people. I mean, I take my own experience. Grew up in St. Vincent, but I grew up knowing that my mother's father was Barbadian. He never lost his Bajan accent. I had to sit with him and listen to Gutter Pork and other things. He always tuned in to the Barbados radio station. You know, I went to UE Cave Hill. I mean, when I look at my household, you know, I'm married to a Barbadian whose father came from Anguilla. He came to Codrington College from Anguilla to study to be an Anglican priest. And he got married. He got a posting. His first posting was in St. Martin. So his wife went with him to St. Martin. And then he was posted to St. Kitts. So my wife, her siblings, some are born in Barbados, some in St. Kitts, some in St. Martin. So this is my lived experience. You know, the older daughter went to law school at Mona. I have three of my uncles. I mean, Joel, you would know people like that very well. Bernard Marshall, Hayden Marshall, Winfield Marshall. They went to Jamaica for different reasons. In fact, I find my oldest uncle Winfield's story interesting. You know, he went to England to do law before there was UE. And he applied for a job as the lawyer at the Jamaica Coffee Board. And he went to England. He went to Jamaica from England. And people in Jamaica don't know he's not Jamaican. So this is the lived experience of Caribbean people. So I think the laws are just catching up to how people live, you know. So I'm really think that the laws are catching up to it. And I work at UB and we face the problems of the legal restraint. We might hire somebody from St. Lucia. The guy comes, but his wife can't come and get a job. and that creates a problem. So I never like selling it on those economic grounds. It's just the way we live, and the laws are just catching up. And the second argument I never like, which I hear a lot of our leaders making, well, don't worry about the free movement because a lot of people are not going to move. David, I never like that argument. Does that imply that if a lot of people move, they wouldn't do it? We've created a legal environment where people can move, significant people can move, and we need to do the groundwork and preparation and have the courage of our convictions and say, you know, this is how people in the Caribbean live. And if there's significant movement, then we need to maybe look at some of the more difficult aspects. How do we plan for that? And I never really like us saying, well, a lot of people are not going to move, because if we are to get those benefits, I say, at least a minimum, there has to be a minimum number of people moving. Otherwise, we are not going to get the benefits we are talking about. So I find that a little contradictory. So I give my full support to the initiative, but also recognize maybe two things. And I did a newspaper article, which I then came back after because I think some people interpreted my comments incorrectly. I'm very aware living today, and I hope I'm not drawing too much from other people's experiences, that nativism, anti-migrant sentiment is probably the dominant political movement in the world right now.
Today.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in the UK, and the idea that Nigel Farage could win a seat, that his party could win significant seats. People are talking about him as a potential next prime minister. I mean, Nigel Farage was never taken seriously. I mean, the idea that he could be in this position tells me the kind of world that we live in. You know, we have elections just come out today in the Czech Republic, I think. Another right of center party winning there. It's a movement all over the world, and I think we would be naive to ignore it and not do the groundwork to really confront the issues head on and really talk to people, sensitize our publics, and not try to say a lot of people not going to move. I don't like that. I find we're kind of shifting away from the hard work that those of us who support this and are saying the laws are just catching up, that we really have to follow that. And then we have to do the groundwork to facilitate. I in the article, I really meant to highlight missing gaps that I see with myself and other people. You know, if you move, sometimes it's hard to move money around to pay your mortgages. I have an employee on my campus who has a mortgage in Jamaica. He's banking with the same bank in Antigua. He would like to more or less do some consolidation so he can manage his payments more easily. These things are not so smooth in the region right now. You know, moving your pension benefits if you were working one place, etc. I think these are some of the nuts and bolts that we have to confront. Now, I'm not a great believer that you have to wait to get all these things in place before you go, because then you might never open up. But as you do it, then I think you have to prepare yourselves for these issues. So that's kind of my opening spiel.
Gentlemen, any reaction? Lance, as much as you're there still, you want to any quick reaction?
Thank you, Cecil. Quickly, I totally agree with Professor Robinson with the point he made in terms of the movement of people, the number of people. I think we should be encouraging movement. But as I say, the lack of, the point I am making with respect to the economics is that there's a lack of information. I agree with Prof that it is our lived experience. There are so many of us who have very close relatives who have lived in Barbados all their lives and in the other countries, Grenada, wherever. We live like that already. But every time the subject is discussed, the argument that is put up against the move is an economic one, and sometimes very parochial in nature. And I deliberately use the word parochial because these countries are small parishes when you compare to some of the countries that Professor Robinson just speak about there. And we put up these arguments of taking jobs and such, that programs like this have to put some emphasis in talking about what would the reality would be like. We have had years of Vincentians going to Barbados to reap their cane. That didn't present any economic challenge for Barbados. Actually, it helped them in their economic activity. It contributed to the GDP. So we have had a long practice of these things. Yet, every time we speak, whether you're in Barbados or you're in St. Vincent or any of the other countries, and we can extend it regionally to Jamaica and Guyana and so forth. We have had years of lived experience of persons coming and going and working. Sometimes it is done under the radar, as Prime Minister Gonzalez said, to the detriment of those who are moving. And I believe programs like these owe it to ourselves to explain to the people that the economic argument, in principle, that you put up against free movement is not valid. I agree with, as I said, with all Professor Robinson said, but I think we owe it to ourselves and to our people to explain to them that that argument that is always against, that is always presented against our economic development, and especially at the individual and household level.
All right. Let me ask David.
Reading
Sorry.
does not support that.
Okay. So Lansford, it's up to you. You can still remain on, and or you can go up if you wish. That's up to you. But I want to ask David.
Can you hear me? Necessary, because somebody else may want
fine.
to contribute.
All right.
So I'll go off, and if I find it necessary,
Come
I'll
back in.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are hearing you.
All right. So this is a practical issue that I would like to hear you all address. In Barbados at the moment, there is a debate running about the development of the coastland, where the country is pushing as much as it can for foreign direct investment, and we are seeing it in the tourism sector. There is some disquiet in some quarters about the buildings that are going up along the beaches on the west coast. Well, not so much the west coast, but some of that is coming down and being replaced as well by higher buildings, and on the south coast of the country. Barbados has a position that it will not go in the direction of alien land holdings legislation. However, many countries in the OECS believe in holding on to the alien land holdings legislation to protect the people who live on those islands. My question is, to what extent is this clash between the Barbados position and the OECS position something that needs to be put on the table? Because I do not dismiss the possibility that a major Barbadian developer may get into bed with some developer from outside of Barbados, from North America or Europe, with the objective of using the relationship and the freedom of movement as a means of being able to expand that kind of construction and development, as you may call it. And that's one aspect of it that I think is something that we need to examine. We need to ask questions about those.
David, sorry to interrupt you, but we have lost, your volume seems to have dropped a bit. I'm not sure if it's from you.
Are you hearing me better?
No, we were hearing you loud and clear earlier.
Now?
All right, speak still, we would try to follow.
Let me see how, because I'm using two devices as a means of trying to communicate with you all. But I'm suggesting.
I'm actually hearing David very clearly, so I don't know if it's in studio. I'm hearing David very well.
Right. So I think that is one. That issue of alien land holdings is one that I would like to see clarified. But we are talking a lot about people moving for jobs. We also must take into consideration that we are ultimately looking to open up this space for the development of business in the countries. And we are likely to see more countries, more companies moving from one to the other to help create the jobs that are required, and to spur the development that we are talking about. Because I think we are too limited in looking at this from the perspective of a person or a family moving. The whole idea ultimately is to create more of a space for the development of business and the economy, and thereby create jobs in different spaces, as I understand it. Those are my thoughts.
Jolly,
Yeah.
give
Okay. The alien landholding legislation in St. Vincent and Grenadines is important, and it's not going to be moved, from my understanding, anytime soon. And I have had my dealings with it, representing the interests of a Barbadian company, actually, who sought alien landholding license, well, on more than one occasion. In St. Vincent and Grenadines, land for development, flat land, sloping, appropriate, whether it's for commercial reasons or otherwise, is very, very scarce. Less than 20% of St. Vincent's land flat, and there has to be some degree of control of certainly closer and tighter administration of the use of facilities. So even though that we encourage foreign direct investment, whether it's someone from Australia or someone an entity out of Barbados, it is an issue I believe that will remain under control. Now, I believe though that the government would have to be more liberal and more accommodating where that is concerned, because I mean, it's not just about the movement of people, but you want to see the movement of resources in all its dimensions, especially if that FDI has to do with it actually brings in foreign exchange into the country, it employs a lot of people, it has some technology that we don't have, and so forth. These things really do matter. But at the same time, I believe it is one thing, the alien landholders would remain very much under the control of the government, and something that would have an important role to play in our continuing quest towards integration.
And Professor Robinson, did you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, so I think David is raising an important issue in that as you open up the space and you create, well, to use the term that people use, a single market, to what extent are we going to have to harmonize laws and regulations? And that really is one of the tensions that's going to be created, that if you're going to have a single economic space, to what extent are you going to sacrifice some of your national sovereignty to harmonize regulations? So, for example, the front page story in the paper this morning, David, the Bar Association in Barbados, the lawyers, pretty concerned. Right now, if you want to practice law in Caribbean countries, you have to be called to the bar in Barbados. One of the implications or issues around this opening up as it relates to professionals, there seems to be a proposal for a single professional license where once you are called to the bar in one of these spaces, you are effectively called to the bar in the other islands that are part of it. And again, what are the extent to which people are, and that seems, and the proposal relates to architects, engineers, a much broader range of professionals. And what I think is important is we need to confront these issues head on before they become issues. Because then you see, when I wrote the article, what my fear is, is you don't address these issues. Things happen. Issues arise, conflicts arise, somebody moving is gonna commit a crime. A company seeking to move into your space is gonna rub up against these regulations, and some opposition party is gonna ride into power on an anti-movement platform, and you can find legislation getting reversed and so on. So I think we have to confront these things and recognize that they're I mean, in my field, and what we talk about is that when you have these changes, there are going to be winners and losers. And when I look at what is happening in the US and globalization and others, I think a lot of people in my profession and a lot of others did not acknowledge that there can be losers. That some people might be negatively affected, some groups. And we can't be tone deaf to them because they will find somebody to listen to them. We can't preach to them that this is all good for you when their lived experience is that it is not. And how do we address their concerns or at least appear sensitive to it? I think are really important elements if we are going to be successful and not allow a political backlash to fester, because quite often, those of us on these programs and the ones talking in favor of the free movement are often the ones best positioned to take advantage of it. And not necessarily the ones who are going to be losers, I'm hoping in St. Vincent that people are ready for the possibility that, you might have some jobs advertised in the civil service and in teaching and others, and some highly qualified and experienced Barbadians might apply for them.
But Professor Robinson, that has always been part of our existence, our history in St. Vincent.
Right. But now it's just easier. Now they don't need no work permit. They don't need all of that. These are all possibilities, and we shouldn't close our minds to these things and pretend that they are not going to happen, because when they do happen, then it's the nature abhors a vacuum. I see Fitz laughing. I see Fitz laughing. My hair is from Fitz.
I want to comment on a point you made there.
But before you come in, Fitz, just allow me to invite. I see when Colin was trying to get in, and he we didn't get him. So if you're listening, sir, please anytime call us. Yes, go ahead, Fitz.
Professor, I was moved to comment on a point you made about some opposition party may come and disrupt the movement. And in Canada, there's a Red Seal program that certain jobs are protected. You can't come into the country. And for example, picking food, the fruit pickers, they fall outside of the program, but like skilled workers like electricians, carpenters, etc., they fall under a Red Seal program that you have to go through a labor market opinion before you can actually prove you can do this job. So I'm looking. I was moved to comment on the statement you made about protecting jobs. So you may find that Barbados may decide we're not gonna have a Vincentian come and apply for these jobs because they're in a protected program. St. Vincent may want to do the same, put some certain jobs in a protected program just for their nationals. And we have to be careful that we don't walk into that situation. You know what I mean, Joel? Later on, even if we form this union and we could move and travel, we find that our people cannot get certain jobs in certain countries and vice versa.
Well, can I add to the
Go
discussion? At this stage, I don't think that is envisaged, because to my mind, it may defeat the whole purpose behind the idea. But remember, for us in Barbados, we went pretty close to this when Arthur was Prime Minister. We had a lot of Guyanese who came into Barbados to help with construction and agriculture in particular. And there was this groundswell of opposition in certain quarters. It led to the situation where the late David Thompson ran a campaign against the presence of the Guyanese, and he actually went to Guyana and made a speech before the Manufacturers Association there, in which he told the Guyanese, ever so welcome, wait for a call. This had a lot to do with the pressure that mounted in housing. People were complaining that people who were renting out houses were exploiting the Guyanese. They had them living in rooms rather than in whole houses. There is always a concern that employers will exploit the situation by bringing in labor that is seen as cheaper. And we are now seeing a move to a lot of contract labor, meaning short-term contracts and that sort of thing, which are seen as disadvantaging people who are moving. It is being applied to people who live here normally. And just the other day, the ink hadn't dried on whatever the Prime Minister wrote in that speech the other evening. And the next day we saw an ad, one of the popular fast food outlets in Barbados put out an ad for Vincentians to come to Barbados and work. And the question that people were posing is, what is this thing? Is it that there are not enough Bajans to do this work? They can tell you that they know a host of people who can do the work. Is it that they want to pay them at a cheaper rate? And what are the arrangements? When they bring them from St. Vincent, what are the arrangements for housing and stuff? At the end of the day, those are real issues that people are bringing to the fore. Now, there's one other one that we haven't spoken about. There's a deep concern about crime in this region. All right? Whether you are dealing with Barbados, St. Vincent, Belize, I would say in the context of these four countries, these are the three that you're watching. And, you know, it is something that people are putting on the table as well in terms of issues that we need to be able to work through.
Guys, any reactions to that? I'm smiling because, Go ahead.
They will always have one or two actors who have nefarious intentions, and we have to be mindful of that. And I'm sure that our leaders and all of us would have to play a role in that, including the media, would have to play a role, because there will be persons of nefarious intention, and those who want to exploit that will blow it up, and for political and other reasons. So we have to be very mindful. One of the things that I just wanted to mention, I'm not so much concerned right now about persons taking jobs from Vincentians and especially semi-skilled or skilled positions and so forth. But what I'm concerned is of what is happening to our labor pool, because more than likely there's some skilled labor will migrate if there's an opportunity abroad. And then those who remain going to say, well, look, I am a skilled carpenter, mason, or whatever the case may be. I remain in St. Vincent. But instead of $140 a day, my fee now is $180 or $200 a day. And that is the pressure. I'm actually even right now, even before this, experiencing that kind of thing as we have labor shortage.
Supply and demand.
Then this is the elevation, this is what you're going to face.
But gentlemen, history has taught us that those things happen and they resolve themselves eventually. I mean, more recent thing in the Southern Grenadines in Union Island, when there was this demand for workers, the price for labor went up. But we were able to resolve it. It will be resolved. So I'm saying,
how was it resolved, Cecil?
Inflation.
No, but the point is that people have been building, and when that phase is finished, that the elevation in labor price will fall. It's a natural process, and therefore I support the view that we have to trust our leaders, and also that things will be resolved.
I beg to differ on that. I cannot accept that you're going to just say trust your leaders and don't help your leaders to understand how the pressures are mounting, where they are mounting, and help your leaders by providing ideas for trying to solve problems. I don't know that I could live in a world where it is I elect a leader and that's the end of that.
No, no, no.
I couldn't do that. But let me make the point here on the question of the costs. It is particularly concerning, especially when you have a building boom. You have an increase in costs across the board. This is now superimposed, as you may recall, on the post-COVID period, where we got shortages of items, the shipping challenges that you have. You have a lot that is going on, and I don't know that I've ever seen building costs come down. Whenever they have gone up, they have stayed up. So finding a solution to that problem is not going to be easy. But finally, let me make this observation. We have our experience in the Caribbean is that as much as we want the private sector to lead growth, if we leave everything to the market, you end up with excesses in behavior. And the question arises as to at what point will government sometimes have to step in to regulate the behavior of the market? Because if you leave it wide open, you're going to face problems. That's how we've seen it. Am I saying something that isn't relevant to what you've observed?
No,
No,
you're
but again,
quite
it
relevant.
comes back to our whole discussion about winners and losers. A much larger space. But when you look at the US and a lot of the reaction to globalization, which has fed a lot of the Trump phenomenon, the US economy has done fantastically well under globalization, but a lot of those benefits have gone to some very small groups. And a lot of the places in the US that we as the Caribbean people don't go to. We go to the big cities, but those small towns, places that were relying on certain types of manufacturing and support, they were the losers. So some big corporations were the ones that benefited a lot from globalization, but there were losers on the ground. And one of my concerns, which I think is linked to what David is saying, is that we need to be very conscious of that. So, I mean, we don't want to go back into the old Marxist days, but sometimes the big winner is capital.
Always.
Yeah, that is
so far.
If I may add,
Labor might be some of the losers, but Labor has a vote. Labor has a vote, and if they feel they are losing, they're gonna find a political champion.
Mm-hmm.
If I may add, Justin, is that in the United States, the chat speak about free market and democracy and the like. But by and large, it's a plutocracy. Just like what they say about Russia and so on. Just a few persons, large entities that control what is happening in the marketplace and what is happening on the political stage as well. And that is what the United States have come to. And we therefore have to be able to do.
Are we any different, Joe? Are we in the Caribbean any different?
If we're any different?
Yes.
I pause in my response to David.
But David, I want to go back to the question you raised when I mentioned about a while ago about trusting our leaders. I argue we have to give guidance to the leaders and listen to what people are saying in the various communities, in the various sectors, and they have to be informed by that. But my point is that our leaders don't live on Mars. Even the ones who have come together to push this movement right now, they don't live on Mars. They're grounded in the reality of where we are. So, there are challenges. There will be challenges, but we have to find a way. And the leaders have to lead on this issue. In as much as they've taken this initiative, we have to find a way to smooth out those challenges, so to say. We have to find a way to do it.
Yes, so you know that the leaders of Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the others that are not in this pilot program will
Yeah,
all contribute that we're leading to.
I'm very much aware of that. In fact, it's like
But David, why do you think this is so?
What is so?
The leaders
why
of
they're
the
not.
other islands,
Because they have to. Because they have constituencies where there are fears that are being expressed. I saw an economist out of Trinidad is saying that Trinidad was looking at its foreign currency problems right now, the absence of adequate growth in the economy. These were things that among the things that they're concerned about the total state of the economy. And of course, you're going to have people who support a political party who will be expressing their fears about how it is going to impact on them. I get the sense that the four countries involved here, are trying to embark on a pilot project with the objective of saying, you all holding us back, let us go forward and prove to you that this can work. That's my sense of where we are.
The OECS did it a few years ago. They came
Yeah,
together.
but as I said earlier, I don't know if Professor Robinson, he wasn't here then, but I said, my argument was, yes, I agree, they did it. But what I don't have is enough information assessing how it has worked in practical terms, I know that people move and they're comfortable, they don't fight with each other, but the gains, the pluses and the minuses of having made that move, I don't believe it has been studied enough. And I think it would be useful to have that kind of analysis.
Yes.
I think that's an important point that David is making. I think the positive from the OECS free movement is that there is no sense of a lot of negative fallout. There is no sense that there's been a crisis, a lot of fallout. The extent of the benefits, and I think the OECS got there after a long period of functional cooperation. So, but in some ways, in this initiative, I think Barbados and Belize are the ones that are really making a very brave move, because the OECS with that integration really has been having that movement for a while. I know in Antigua is not part of the pilot, but Antigua is a very interesting space because some data I was engaging recently, it actually suggests, David, that that of the people residing in Antigua, less than 50% were born in Antigua. That's a very interesting dynamic. And it's very, so even like in my office, I am the campus principal, I am a Vincentian, my assistant is Jamaican, my secretary is Dominican, the driver is Dominican. So it's a very interesting dynamic. That in a way you have to, and in a way Antigua is functioning very well with that. There's a large Dominican Republic population in Antigua and Barbuda. It's interesting to the point that in the Dom Rep, they're conscious of this. So you'll be driving through a neighborhood in Antigua and you will see a billboard for an election that is happening in the Dominican Republic. That they're actually aware of that dynamic and they are advertising to that particular group. So Antigua, in a way, St. Kitts has quite a lot of migration into it as well from other islands. I don't think the Windward Islands have necessarily seen that heavy movement in to work. In some ways, a lot of the Windwards might be net exporters. And again, that's what I mean in a way, by winners and losers. Some countries will be the magnet countries. So in the EU, why is this such a bigger issue in the UK? The UK has been much more of a magnet for migration than some other places. And that's kind of my point with winners and losers. It's not going to be a 50-50 love and 50-50 movement. Some people are going to export more. Some people are going to receive more. and we need to be ready for that, just at the level of sensitizing the population, implications for housing, social services, and so on.
And
And that's kind of my point, that
in
let's not
all,
pretend that this is going to be a fairy tale wedding.
Yeah,
It's a marriage. They're going to be
let me
cussing and
let me bring in some people calling in. Let me bring in some callers. Greetings, welcome to the program.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. My name is Richard Byron Cox. Can you hear me?
Quite well, Richard. Good to have you.
Yes,
Welcome.
good afternoon to all of Yes, good afternoon to all of you. Special good afternoon to my friend Fitz. How are you doing?
I'm very good,
Good
Richard.
to see you home.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear your voice.
Right, great. If you allow, just allow me to make a small contribution
Of course.
to your program. I think Mr. Ellis and Professor Robinson and all of you would agree that this change is new and it is going to bring its challenges. Whether we like this or not, that is what is going to happen. And those challenges are going to happen because, as I've said before, first and foremost, it is new. Secondly, there are going to be things which none of us here at present can foresee. We cannot foresee it now. It's going to happen as it goes along. I mean, Professor Robinson, as an economist, knows this. This is a fact. Thirdly, we know for a fact that because of this change, some people would want to exploit it for different reasons, including political reasons. For example, Mr. Ellis mentioned that somebody announced that they're looking for Vincentian workers. Was this because of a political reason? Is it that this person is trying to stimulate in Barbados? That kind of thing. Okay, you know what? We're against this movement, but we're not saying that. And so when people see this announcement, they then say, aha, here you are, Vincentians coming to take our jobs. You understand what I'm saying? They might not necessarily be looking for workers and for Vincentian workers in particular, but they want to provoke the situation. And we must understand these things. We have to look at these things from all the perspectives. Thirdly, I personally believe that, as I think Professor Robinson is saying, there would have to be adjustments. There's no if and buts about this. Because this is a change. This is a change not purely about issues, as Professor Robinson is saying, of labor, of economics. We have to see the broader picture. And because of those changes, there would have to be adjustments. And they would be made, as Mr. Ryan has said, as we go along, right? Not everything. If we want this thing to work perfectly immediately off the bat, this is madness. We are insane. We are not reasonable people. And we have got to be reasonable people. Outside of that, what I would like to suggest, and I'd like to hear what you all have to say about this, should we approach this thing as a matter of fear? Because that is the issue here in some cases. Psychologically, at the back of our minds, Bajans coming to take Vinci work, Vinci going Barbados, Barbados work, and so on and so forth. You understand what I'm saying? Rather than looking at this in a positive light and saying, okay, we are sure, we are absolutely positive that there are going to be challenges. So let us ready ourselves as best as we can, and let us be flexible so that when these things come along, right, that we are going to deal with them, in a positive manner. Finally, I do think that I heard this question asked, and I found it very, very interesting. So far, we have a level of free movement of goods. You understand who's benefited more than anybody else? The business sector. You understand? In the movement of people, that's the people we're dealing with, the ordinary people. We even masons, doctors, lawyers, idols. You understand what I'm saying? And therefore, we are making the integration movement. But our people, our Caribbean people, finally, I know I've been long, but just let me make this one.
It's all right. It's all right. Go on.
It has always been my argument, Mr. Ryan. It has always been my argument, Professor Robinson. And I appeal to you because of your study, right? I'm sure you would have studied the human geography and the human, the economic geography of our Caribbean. I'm pretty sure you know these things. And I am saying that from my understanding of history, which is one of my favorite subjects, okay, and like all of you there, I read Making of the West Indies, pre-emancipation, post-emancipation, etc., etc., etc. And I know that we all, as Stalin put it in his classic Caribbean Man, we came on the same ship. We need the same ship. Some of us drop off in Barbados, some was drop off in Antigua, and some was drop off somewhere else. And I cannot claim Cigar Field Sobers, and I cannot claim Vivian Richards, and I cannot claim Eric Williams, and I cannot claim Usain Bolt unless I am a Caribbean man. Thank you very much for entertaining me.
Just to let you know, Richard, just to let you know, you kind of jump in my program. I have Black Study lined up to play, but Caribbean man. I have him lined up. But yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
I just want to say to us guys, there are other callers who are trying to comment, get in, and I want to give preference to voices we have not yet heard. But go ahead, Joel.
Yes, I want to direct a question to both David Ellis and to Professor Justin Robinson. That's to do with
before you do, can I let me take this call and then we will come back to that because I really want to give some callers voices. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, my friend. This is Mr. Bottis calling from Sandy Dinner.
Yes, and your issue is?
Well, I don't really call panel issues, and I just remind about.
All right, I'm reminded. All right, we'll get back to you. All right.
Okay then.
Thank you very much. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's important that.
No, I understand, but we've been talking around this thing all day, all morning, and people are calling in, and I need to give preference to some callers. I'm sorry. But look up, somebody's calling out from overseas. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. I'm listening to the program attentively.
Are you calling from? You're calling from Barbados?
And David Ellis has been representing Barbados very, very vigorously. But I want to say this: I have not heard anything being spoken about the possibility of these people coming to your country. And in 6 months, they can become a citizen, and then thereafter they can vote. And I got issues with that because they can come to the country, whether it's your country or my country, and ensure all become citizens and are able to vote, and then change the political trajectory of the country that will go against people that have been living here for all their life. I want to hear y'all speak something about the voting.
Can I?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a bill that is before Parliament that is proposing to reduce the period that a person will be able to stay in Barbados and seek citizenship. Now, this matter has not been discussed and debated in Parliament yet, but there are expressions of some concern about that. And I have seen something coming out of St. Vincent online where it looks as though a supporter of the opposition party has been suggesting that we are trying to create an environment now where people can move from one Caribbean country to the next to support the party that is more aligned to the one that they are familiar with in the country from whence they come. Now, that is being peddled in some quarters, and the decision by Barbados to put this proposed change, not only in relation to CARICOM nationals, non-CARICOM nationals, according to the proposal, would be able to get citizenship and be able to vote after a 9-month period. Now, that's a significant change, and I think that's what that caller is referring to.
Yeah, but David, who does that benefit though? Does it benefit any particular group of people, or it's a law that it's something that benefits anybody? It doesn't restrict it for maybe a supporter of one party over.
That does not necessarily. I heard one of the political scientist that I think you all know pretty well, articulating this in the context of what happened in Antigua and Barbuda. And his interpretation of it is that if you leave one country to go to the next, you are more likely to support the party that is already in power because you will feel that that party has given you the opportunity to pick up yourself and go elsewhere. That was his interpretation. I haven't put it to any special study or anything like that, but I'm suggesting to you that those are some of the arguments that are coming up. And I think that one has to be watched very carefully. I wait to see whether the government of Barbados is indeed going to pursue
David,
this.
what is this? What is this now in Barbados? If I move to Barbados, how long would it be to become a citizen?
As it stands right now, you gotta be, I think it's for 5 years, not 6 months. I'm just looking here because I did have a look at it earlier. Right. So it is now 5 years, but it is being proposed that it should be reduced to 6 months within a 2-year period for CARICOM nationals.
But can I just ask you, David, is that part of the bill? This is citizenship bill?
That's the citizenship bill that is being looked at right now.
Okay, all right.
So a non-national of a member state would be could be resident in Barbados for 9 months. A Commonwealth member state, as I understand it. That's somebody who is a non-national of a member state, a CARICOM member state, would be resident in Barbados for 9 months in a 3-year span to be able to apply for citizenship. So that is I suspect that is going to have a lot more discussion on it because it has the potential to be controversial.
But David, there's a difference between citizenship and the ability to vote. And
once you're a citizen, you will have the ability to vote.
No, but if you are a Commonwealth citizen and you're a resident in Barbados for 6 months, then you would be able to vote in the elections in Barbados once you're registered.
Same here. Same in St. Vincent.
And remember the case with Eddie Ventos? I think there was on that. But I think so there's a difference between voting, the ability to vote, and the question of citizenship. And I think the caller raised the issue. He was conflating the two, and it wasn't necessary to conflate the two.
I think that this is a matter that requires further discussion in the country, and the government needs to articulate exactly what it is seeking to do. You see, this all comes back to what we've been discussing before, which is when matters arise, we need to be able to talk about them.
Yeah, but those matters were discussed in our parliament when the bill was presented last week. So I think if Barbados hasn't done that yet, then it comes right back to the point we made earlier that we need to have a lot of education in the public sphere for people to understand what this bill is really about.
But Fitz, if you're listening to the address by Prime Minister Motley, she said that the bill is going on the 7th, and to Parliament on the 7th
to
address an issue raised by Professor Robertson earlier about the OECS and the likelihood of the OECS islands moving before the other islands. I think there's some element of trust because we have a common OECS currency. We also have the court
system,
right? So it's easy for, say, a St. Lucia and Antigua, St. Kitts to join St. Vincent, Dominica, right, and Grenada. The other islands who may sit back and wait and see what happens if this is a success. It may take a little longer, but we already have this element of trust because we have a common currency, we have a court, we have an understanding, we have free movement of people where we can go across the islands with a ID card, and we haven't heard any big noises made about it, you know. So I think we just, my prediction is that we'll see the other islands, the OECS islands, joining us soon.
Look,
See, this question of the court, you have some people who go to the CCJ, some people who go to the Privy Council. All right? And once you're trying to create that sense of union, then to what extent are you likely to face, I suppose, challenges with respect to people doing their business and deciding, you know, that they need to take court action? Because the ideal is to have everybody going to the same court of appeal.
Yes, it would be ideal, but it's not absolute. It's not applies in this case. It's not absolutely critical.
Exactly.
But
I think the politics is an important issue for a country like Trinidad, where you have parties and voting maybe along ethnic lines. So I think it's there, you know, it's there, and it will affect.
You're going to include Guyana too?
Well, Guyana, you know, some people might be. I mean, I certainly know it's a live issue in Trinidad that because their parties line up along ethnic lines, if you open up to Caribbean movement with those residency, so the politics is there, and I think it's one of the issues that, and I think the previous caller there, you know, I not the Barbadian guy, but Byron Cox. Richard, I mean, I think we are all in agreement with Richard, you know. So I don't think Richard should read the comments or some of the discussions as negativity. I think my own view and my own message is these things are gonna come up, and we should be prepared not to be dismissive of them or seek to brush them under the carpet, and then we need to confront them head on. Listen to people, you know, what are your fears? Don't talk down to them. Don't dismiss them. Don't tell them they don't know, and etc. etc. Because these people have been, you know, when I was in A levels, you know, we were learning all of these isms: communism, fascism. But David, you know what the ism that has won? The ism that has won is nationalism.
Dangerously so sometimes.
No. I think if we are to be honest, between all these isms that emerge, the one that has won is nationalism, and we've been taught for a long time to be nationalistic, to be Vincentians and Dominicans and so on. That has, you know, I mean, when I was growing up in St. Vincent, this thing with the Vinci flag and thing wasn't part of my upbringing, you know. I didn't grow up with all this wave the flag thing. I still find it a little strange when I see everybody repping the flag and thing. I didn't grow up with that kind of nationalistic.
Something that I would draw to your attention when you talk about people crossing the border and who they're likely to support. You look at the parties in the Caribbean and see what colors they line up with. Sometimes you're looking at a party in Dominica one, in St. Lucia one, in St. Vincent, and the colors are the same. So when you make your move, what are you gonna do? You're gonna line up with the party colors that you're familiar with.
I think we have to be conscious, Mr. Joel, that we are almost asking people to unlearn some things that we have pumped at them for decades, you know.
Yeah, but
independence did happen. We did go down, you know, this nationalism, rep the flag, this and that, you know, this is part of people's identity that has been forged and pushed. So I think we just need to be very aware of it. And it's a change management process. Like, I guess like any, you know, Joel, you were a big company, you're bringing in something new, even within a company. You have to have a change management process. Otherwise, the best change not going to work. The change brings fear.
Gentlemen, a time check.
I feel so frustrated.
No, hold on.
I'm just telling you that I feel frustrated.
Yeah, but hold on. Let me give a time check. The time check is now 1:00, and Karen is already in studio. That's the strongest signal that our time has been expired. But I just want to say, guess what? To be continued, it seems like. Gentlemen?
For me, it's been a pleasure being with you all, and I certainly.
Before you go, I was just saying that the program, this particular program, it seems that the message we are all coming, the decision we are all coming to, is that we have to continue it.
I have no difficulty with that.
Yeah, agreed. You know,
We have to continue discussing it on Voice of Barbados, and I certainly want to have the participation of someone or more than one person from the St. Vincent. And my position is I'm a facilitator. I am not here to tell people what to say, what to think, what to do. I'm here to listen to as many opinions as I possibly can get, so that we can then bring to the public a mix of opinions and ideas. So if I can get that from the St. Vincent end, then I'll accommodate it within our Brass Tacks program as well, because we need to open up a lot more to what other people are saying within the region. And through the media, we also have to forge that oneness. So that's what we want to do.
So we have to find a way to do that, David?
Sure. It's easy for me. I usually use Zoom. It's very easy.
Okay. Well, we can discuss the practicality of that. It's certainly an interesting and very useful suggestion that you're making. Given the feedback we've been getting from our respective jurisdictions, that would be very useful in terms of advancing the discussion and certainly the initiative. Yeah. All right. So we have, I guess we can ask Karen to give us a couple more minutes, Karen, because Joel has some.
Joel has to go.
He has to go. Karen, our technician, has to go, he said. So we'd have to leave the other issues and the other concerns and the other questions for the next time we come at it. In the meantime,
thank you all very much.
Yeah, and thank you very much, David, for all the challenges, for have your patience and bearing with us. And we look forward to having a similar discussion sometime soon. And as to respond to your invitation to also have some input on Brass Tacks. Yes.
Brass Tacks.
No, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Always a pleasure.
Thanks as usual. Yeah, as you know, you're now an associate of the program. And so we call on you. We'll be calling on you soon again.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure. Always good to see everybody. And thanks for the invitation. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the Sunday.
Okay, you too. So as I said before to Richard, we have lined up this song. Let me just put it.
You try with a federation, the whole thing end in confusion. Curriculum and then character, but somehow a spelling disaster. Mr. West Indian politician, I mean you went to a big institution, and how come you can't unite 7 million? When a West Indian unity, I know it's very easy. If you only rap to your people and tell them like me, then it's one race from the same place that make the same trip on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region for the woman and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. You say that the Federation was imported quite from England, and you're going on for a character with a true West Indian flavor. But since character started running, morning, noon, and night, all I hearing it's just money speech, them prime minister giving. But I say no set of money, good for my unity. Put up all your people need their identity like one race from the same place that make the same trip on on the same ship. So we must push one common intention for a better life in the region. For we woman and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. CARICOM is facing time. The whole